All of These Are Dead begins by showing a young man named Lee Jin-soo, who is being bullied by his schoolmates. When being bullied, Jin-soo's expression suddenly changes drastically, and his demeanor becomes very aggressive. This then made his bullies confused and accidentally caused Jin-soo to fall from a height. For fear of being blamed, they rushed away from there. Jin-soo was later found lying on the street and immediately rushed to the hospital for medical treatment because the young man was still alive. Mr. Lee, Jin-soo's father, immediately rushed to the hospital to see his son's condition. Mr. Lee then sneaks into Jin-soo's treatment room and finds out that his son is now showing strange behavior and tends to be aggressive. Instead of calling a doctor, Mr. Lee instead beats his son with a thick book, knocking Jin-soo unconscious. After that, Mr. Lee stuffed Jin-soo's body into a suitcase and carried him away from there. When Mr. Lee was about to check his son's pulse, Jin-soo was still alive and regained consciousness while continuing to struggle from inside the suitcase. The scene then switches to showing the atmosphere at Hyosun High School, which has just started a new school year after a long holiday. The students looked happy and worked together to clean the entire school area. The teachers and students then went about their usual activities until it was time to go home from school. A student named Hae-onju seems to have fallen asleep in the lab room. When she woke up and was about to leave, Hae-onju heard a noise from the lab equipment room. Out of curiosity, the girl then entered the room and checked where the noise was coming from. Hae-onju then finds a white mouse caged in a glass box. Hae-onju, who felt exasperated, tried to hold the mouse, but the cute beast showed a strange behavior instead and aggressively attacked Hae-onju, biting her finger. Hae-onju was astonished at the aggressive nature of the tiny mouse, which even tried to break the glass in its box. Mr. Lee, who turns out to be a science teacher at the school, enters the room and catches Hae-onju being bitten by the aggressive rat. When Hae-onju was about to leave, without a second thought, Mr. Lee immediately pulled the girl back into the science room and kept her there. The scene then switches and shows a student named Cheong-san, who is going home from school with a friend named Jae-soo. Cheong-san then meets his close friend, a student named An-jo, who wants to eat at Cheongsan Chicken restaurant with her friend, Yoon-isak. As a result, the four of them went to Cheongsan Chicken restaurant and met Cheong-san's mother there. While eating, Yoon-isak said that she was suspicious of Mr. Lee had been acting strange since his son disappeared. Yoon-isak said that Mr. Lee also often smelled like a rotting corpse. An-jo, Cheong-san, and Jae-soo also agree, but they decided not to discuss the matter any further. Not only have they been close friends since childhood, but Cheong-san and An-jo are also neighbors, so they are often seen together. So familiar with Cheong-san, An-jo even often asks his opinion regarding her appearance. The next day, a popular student at school named Lee Soo-hyuk sees delinquent students leading a student named Eun-ji and a student named Chil-soo somewhere. The delinquent students intend to threaten Eun-ji and Chil-soo because they know what the delinquent students did to Jin-soo. One of the delinquent students named Gwi-nam then forcibly removed Eun-ji's clothes and recorded it.
아, 변태 새끼, 씨.
When the delinquent students bully Eun-ji and Chil-soo, Lee Soo-hyuk arrives and intends to save them. However, Eun-ji chose not to go with Lee Soo-hyuk because Gwi-nam threatened to spread Eun-ji's nude photos. After that, Lee Soo-hyuk runs into An-jo, who tells him that she wants to discuss something with Lee Soo-hyuk alone and asks him to come to the roof after school. When the students entered their respective classes, a homeroom teacher named Mrs. Park asked where Hae-onju was from her classmates. However, they said they had not seen Hae-onju since the last time they left the laboratory room yesterday afternoon. Mrs. Park then rushed to the lab room and asked about Hae-onju to Mr. Lee. He said that he had not seen Hae-onju since yesterday. However, Mr. Lee is actually keeping Hae-onju in the lab equipment room, worried that the girl will show aggressive behavior like Jin-soo and the rat that bit him. Mr. Lee tries to slow down Hae-onju's infection to suppress her aggressive nature for a while. Meanwhile, in the middle of class, a student named Park Hee-soo feels unwell and asks for permission to rest in the medical room. Shortly after Park Hee-soo left, Hae-onju suddenly appeared and staggered into class. In her limp state and her nose bleeding, Hae-onju told Mrs. Park that Mr. Lee was the one who made her like this. Hearing this, Mrs. Park and Hae-onju's classmates are shocked. They rush to take Hae-onju to the medical room. On the other hand, Park Hee-soo, who complains of stomachache to the school nurse, has to relent when everyone's attention is on Hae-onju, who has just been brought into the medical room. Park Hee-soo chooses to go straight home. Because Hae-onju is so aggressive, her friends have a hard time laying her down. When checked, Hae-onju's body temperature was very low. The girl struggled and bit the school nurse's hand. Mrs. Park then took the initiative to call an ambulance and also contacted the police to investigate what had happened to Hae-onju. When the ambulance arrives, Hae-onju is immediately taken to the hospital. Onjo's father, Soju, who is a firefighter, is very worried about his daughter, who was injured while helping Hae-onju. He treats Onjo's wound and tells his daughter to be more careful. When going back to class, Onjo ventured to confess her love for Lee Soo-hyuk. However, Lee Soo-hyuk thinks that Onjo is dating Chung-san because they are always seen together. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee finds out that Hae-onju managed to escape from the lab equipment room. When looking for her, Mrs. Park and Mr. Kang ambushed Mr. Lee and took the man to the principal's office to explain what happened to Hae-onju. Mr. Lee is very surprised to find out that Hae-onju has been taken to the hospital and asks the principal to bring Hae-onju back because the girl has to be quarantined. But the principal even scolded Mr. Lee for causing chaos at school, especially after Mr. Lee's son, Jin-soo, who suddenly disappeared. Not long after, 2 police officers came and took Mr. Lee to the police station. Meanwhile, in the medical room, the school nurse suddenly feels unwell after Hae-onju bites her hand. The virus turned out to have infected the nurse's body until finally the woman turned into a zombie. 2 students who passed near the medical room intended to record the strange behavior of the school nurse who they thought was drunk. But then, the school nurse attacks one of the students and turns the student into a zombie, which is the beginning of the zombie terror at Hyosin High. A zombie outbreak quickly spreads in Hyosin High from one student to another. On the school roof, Eun-ji contemplates suicide after being harassed and bullied by Gwi-nam and his friends. Sheol-soo tries to stop him, but Eun-ji feels that her world has ended when nude photos of her go viral online. Just as Eun-ji is about to jump off the roof, she sees the students starting to jump from the windows because of the zombie outbreak. Eun-ji was instantly discouraged. Meanwhile, in the school cafeteria, Onjo sees a group of students scrambling to enter the cafeteria as if they are being chased by something. It turned out that the zombie outbreak had spread to the cafeteria and everyone started running to save themselves. In the midst of panic, Chung-san tries to save Onjo, who is being attacked by zombies. The 2 of them finally manage to escape through the cafeteria window. Not only Onjo and Chung-san, everyone seems to be trying to save themselves from the zombie attacks, including Mrs. Park, who just came out of the principal's office, and Lee Soo-hyuk, who managed to save a student named Namra, who is the class president. After passing through various obstacles to avoid attacks from the zombies, Onjo and Cheong-san finally make it back to their class, where some of their friends who are still alive are taking shelter, including Yoon Isak and Jae-soo. Not long after, Lee Soo-hyuk and Namra manage to climb into the classroom using the gardener's ladder and join their other friends who also survived. Meanwhile, at the police station, Mr. Lee is being interrogated by a policeman named Jae-il. According to data from the police, Mr. Lee used to be a researcher at a pharmaceutical company. Mr. Lee turns out to be conducting an experiment based on cases of bullying that often occur in schools or elsewhere. Through his experiments, Mr. Lee hopes that victims of bullying can rise up and fight their bullies so that they don't continue to be bullied, one of which is Jin-soo, his son who is often bullied by his schoolmates. Mr. Lee managed to combine several chemical compounds that can make a rat become aggressive, resilient, and brave against intimidation by a cat. Mr. Lee then injected the compound into his son and his wife. However, things did not go as expected. After being injected with the chemical compound, Jin-soo turns very aggressive and becomes a zombie, as does his wife.
물었다.
Hearing Mr. Lee, the policeman didn't even believe what the man said and thought he was just making it up. Elsewhere, Hae-onju, who had been taken to the hospital, condition became increasingly aggressive and continued to struggle until finally she managed to escape from the treatment room, attacking anyone who was near her, turning everyone into zombies, and that's what caused a zombie outbreak to start spreading outside the school. While taking cover in the classroom, Yoon Isak finds a cell phone belonging to their classmate and decides to call for help. However, when they reported the zombie outbreak attack at the school, the call center officers thought they were doing a prank, until in the end, almost all the call center officers got a call telling them about the zombie attack that hit the whole city. Sensing that the police might not believe them, An-jo then takes the initiative to call the fire department's emergency number and report a major fire at their school. Receiving the report, An-jo's father immediately rushed to Hyosin-hai with several units of fire engines. One of the students, Ne-yeon, had an argument with Jae-soo because of a difference of opinion, in which Jae-soo thought that Ne-yeon was very impatient and only concerned about her own safety. After the attention of the zombies swarming in front of their classroom was distracted by the screams of a girl in the school hallway, Mr. Kang entered their classroom and said that he didn't get bitten by the zombies. Mr. Kang then told the students to set up barricades at the classroom doors. However, An-jo then realizes that Mr. Kang turns out to have been bitten by a zombie. Not long after, Mr. Kang turns into a zombie and attacks one of the students. An-jo and the others rush out of there, but they are stopped by a swarm of zombies in the school hallway. One of the fat students named Da-soo then breaks down the door and uses it as a self-defense barricade to avoid a horde of zombies that try to attack them. With the help of his other friends, Da-soo manages to beat the zombies back so they can go upstairs to save themselves. However, Lee Soo-hyuk decides to stay and fight the zombies with his self-defense skills so that his friends can reach the shelter upstairs safely. An-jo and her friends manage to get into the lab room and take shelter there for a while. Meanwhile, 3 students were seen taking cover from zombie attacks in the toilet. However, one of them turned out to have been bitten by a zombie and immediately turned into a zombie. 2 other students, a student named Jun-sung and a student named Mi-jin, then locked the student who had turned into a zombie. Knowing that the confinement will not last long, Mi-jin takes the initiative to make a sharp weapon from the handle of the mop to fight the zombie. However, even though the mop's head had been pierced through, the zombie still moved very aggressively and tried to attack them, until in the end, the zombie was successfully paralyzed with an arrow that pierced his brain, which was fired by Harry, who is an archery club member. On the other hand, Mrs. Park manages to get into the broadcast room and takes cover there. Through the loudspeaker, the woman asked the students to stay calm and find a safe hiding place from the zombie attacks until help came to their rescue. After learning that Lee Soo-hyuk is still out there and fighting alone against the zombies to save them all, An-jo feels very sad and worried about him. Yoon Isak then tries to calm An-jo by saying that Lee Soo-hyuk must still be fine. Yoon Isak also says that Chung-san actually likes An-jo, judging from his attitude of him who always protects An-jo and gets annoyed when An-jo often talks about other men. However, An-jo only thinks that Chung-san's attitude is like that because they have been friends for a long time. An-jo then grabs Yoon Isak's hand and notices that her hand is very cold. After that, Yoon Isak had a nosebleed, which was the initial phase of the zombie virus infection. It turns out that Yoon Isak was bitten by a zombie on her leg while trying to save herself. It doesn't take long for Yoon Isak to turn into a full-fledged zombie and try to attack An-jo. Not having a heart to kill Yoon Isak, Chung-san then pushed Yoon Isak's body out the window. However, Yoon Isak is still hanging from the side of the window because An-jo instead holds the girl's hand, trying to help her. Chung-san was forced to beat Yoon Isak's hand with a stool until finally An-jo's grip on the girl slipped and Yoon Isak fell from a height. Knowing that they wouldn't be able to last long there because the zombies started destroying the barricades, Chung-san took the initiative to take a fire hose and use the hose to go to another, safer room. The hose made it to the broadcast room, where Mrs. Park then helped An-jo and his friends to enter the broadcast room from the window. Lee Soo-hyuk was able to survive the attack of the zombies and hide in a classroom. When there is an opening to escape through the window, Lee Soo-hyuk rushes over to it and creeps cautiously out the window. On the other hand, Chung-san, who was the last person to go down using the fire hose, was surprised by a horde of zombies who managed to destroy the barricade. Chung-san rushed down through the window, just as the zombies attacked him. Meanwhile, downstairs, his friends see zombies falling from the lab room. That's when Lee Soo-hyuk saw Chung-san hanging from a fire hose and helped him fight off the zombies that were holding his leg, so the two of them finally made it into the broadcast room safely. Meanwhile, Park Hee-soo, who complained of stomach pain at school, turns out to be not suffering from an ordinary stomachache, but Park Hee-soo is about to give birth. Unable to stand it anymore, Park Hee-soo is forced to give birth to her baby in a public toilet. Without knowing the zombie epidemic that is raging everywhere, Park Hee-soo decides to leave the baby in the public toilet. But then, Park Hee-soo realizes that the situation around her has become chaotic due to the zombie attack, so the girl decides to take the baby back to the public toilet and rushes out of there. Elsewhere, Chung-san and his friends, who are trying to find out what is really going on in the city and how the zombie attack started, are startled by the sound of glass breaking due to fire hoses being moved by zombies from upstairs. One of the zombies manages to get down using the hose, and Chung-san tries to fight it off with a broom. But because his attack didn't work, Lee Soo-hyuk then took the initiative to break the broom handle and stab the zombie with its sharp tip. Because the zombie didn't fall, Jae-soo threw a CPU at the zombie and finally managed to knock the zombie down. After the incident, Nae-yeon saw that Jae-soo's nose was bleeding and there were scratches on his hands. Because Jae-soo is considered to be showing early symptoms of zombie infection, Nae-yeon also asks that Jae-soo be quarantined in the audio room for 1 hour, although Jae-soo insists that he has not been bitten or scratched by zombies. Meanwhile, Chung-san's mother, who saw the news of the zombie outbreak attack on television, then rushed out of the restaurant to look for her son's whereabouts at school. On the other hand, Soju, who knows about the zombie outbreak from his boss, has to face the reality when one of his colleagues is also infected with the zombie and is now starting to attack everyone there. The police immediately intervened to secure the survivors by making barricades to withstand zombie attacks. However, the number of citizens who have been infected and turned into zombies is far more than they thought, so it is difficult for the police to maintain barricades and paralyze the zombies. Meanwhile, at school, an hour has passed since Jae-soo quarantined himself. Because it has been proven that Jae-soo is not infected with the zombie virus, Mrs. Park also asks Nae-yeon to apologize to Jae-soo for putting him down. Nae-yeon then takes a handkerchief and wipes the scratches on Jae-soo's hand with the handkerchief, but the girl still refuses to apologize to Jae-soo. His other friends also feel very annoyed at Nae-yeon, who is always arrogant and stubborn, but Nae-yeon still insists that Jae-soo is infected with a zombie virus. Not long after, suddenly Jae-soo's nose bleeds again and he shows early symptoms of a zombie infection. Realizing that he is now really infected with the zombie virus, Jae-soo takes the initiative to get out of the room to not hurt his other friends. At that time, Chung-san and the others felt very sad because Jae-soo had helped them all this time avoiding zombie attacks and still thinking about their safety at the end of his life. When the zombie virus has taken over Jae-soo's body completely, Chung-san is forced to lure Jae-soo out the window. With teary eyes, Chung-san saw his best friend who had turned into a zombie fall from a height. On the other hand, Park Hee-soo, who has been infected on the run, enters Cheonsang Chicken Restaurant and hides the baby in a safe place. After that, Park Hee-soo tied her own hands so she wouldn't kill her baby when she turned into a zombie. Jae-su's departure makes Jung-san and the others feel very sad because Jae-su has always been a good friend and always cared about them. Only Nae-yeon seems unconcerned because she never liked Jae-su and keeps saying that she saved them all from Jae-su who tricked them. However, Namra then confronts Nae-yeon by saying that Nae-yeon intentionally made Jae-su infected with a zombie virus from a broom handle covered in zombie blood. When all attention is on Jae-su who is in quarantine, Nae-yeon stealthily takes a handkerchief and smears zombie blood on the handkerchief, then uses it to wipe the wound on Jae-su's hand. Nae-yeon, who felt disapproved of being accused of such a thing, then cursed Namra, but she slapped Nae-yeon back because her actions were so evil and deliberately caused Jae-su to become a zombie. Hearing this, Jung-san was very angry and tried to attack Nae-yeon, but was prevented by his other friends. Since everyone is against her and considers her a murderer, Nae-yeon decides to leave the room. Unable to bear to leave Nae-yeon alone, Mrs. Park followed Nae-yeon and asked Jung-san and the others to take care of each other. And Mrs. Park tried to save Nae-yeon from being attacked by zombies in the school hallway. The scenes move by showing a man who is doing a live stream in Hyosun City and tells about a zombie outbreak that has invaded the city. The man then told about various equipment that can be used to survive during a zombie outbreak attack, such as safety helmets, axes, and others.
헬멧 있고요. 이거 하키 마스크.
As night fell, the man began to be attacked by zombies and tried to save himself while still streaming live. The viewers of his live stream then suggested the man use an axe to kill the zombies that attacked him. At first, the man managed to escape from the zombie attack and hide in a kindergarten school. But then, his whereabouts were discovered by the kindergarten students who had turned into zombies, so the man had to rush to save himself elsewhere. Elsewhere, Chung-san's mother manages to reach Hyosun High on foot and avoid the zombies as much as possible after her motorbike breaks down in the middle of the road. The woman then crept up, trying not to make a fuss that would attract the attention of the zombies. Not knowing that Jae-su had turned into a zombie, Chung-san's mother then called him. It didn't take long for Jae-su and the other zombies to know where Chung-san's mother was and attacked the woman, eating her alive. Meanwhile, in the broadcast room of Hyosun High School, Soo-hyuk and Dasu say that they want to pee, but it's impossible to get out of the room and go to the toilet because zombies are everywhere. Dasu proposes that they pee in the window, but the proposal is immediately rejected by his friends, as it is considered embarrassing. Anjo then suggests that they use the audio room as a toilet since there's no way they'd be able to fight off a swarm of zombies in a state of needing to pee. At the police station, Jae-il gets word of the zombie outbreak attack that invaded Hyosun City, where the zombies have managed to destroy the police barricades and are now starting to attack all over the city, including the police station. When Jae-il was about to take Mr. Lee out of there, the zombies had apparently barged into the police station and are now starting to roam the corridors. Jae-il immediately intervened to eradicate the zombies, while Mr. Lee just stood there, silently watching the zombie epidemic that started from the experiment he did to help his son. Feeling responsible for all the chaos that occurred, Mr. Lee then helps Jae-il, who was almost killed by one of the zombies. Mr. Lee then asked Jae-il to immediately go to Hyosun High and get his laptop in the science lab room. To make amends, Mr. Lee hopes that the scientists out there will be able to find something that can stop the zombie outbreak's invasion by using all of his experimental data that causes the zombie virus to spread very quickly. After that, Mr. Lee sacrificed himself so that Jae-il could escape from there. While escaping, Jae-il meets a policeman named Ho-cheol, and they go to the military headquarters to report about Mr. Lee's laptop, which contains important data about the zombie virus that has spread throughout the city. Back at Hyosun High, Harry and a few other students, hiding in the toilet, decide to leave the school and seek help. But before that, Harry sets out to find her younger brother, Woo-jin, who may still be in the school and survive the zombie apocalypse. Having no other choice and relying only on Harry as protection from zombie attacks, Mai-jin and the others agree to help Harry find her little brother before they escape outside the school. With her stock of arrows running low, Harry and Min-jae planned to take all the arrows stored in the gym. Knowing that they couldn't keep hiding in the room, Chung-san took the initiative to take the cell phones that were collected in the teacher's room and asked for help by contacting the police. On the other hand, Yeonji, who is still on the school roof with Cheol-soo, looks very panicked and angry when he says that previously Gwi-nam had forced him to give some money and arranged for Yeonji's nude photos and videos to be automatically spread online at certain hours. Eunji then decides to take Gwi-nam's cell phone, which was collected in the teacher's room, to delete the nude video of her, which will be spread soon. By running fast, Yeonji manages to dodge the zombie attacks as she descends the stairs and down the school corridor. But when she was about to reach the teacher's room, a horde of zombies ambushed Eunji from various directions, so that the girl was finally caught and bitten by the zombies. Suddenly, a strange thing happened when the zombies stopped attacking and biting Eunji. The zombies then immediately left her just like that. Even though she has been bitten by zombies, Yeonji is still able to get up and has consciousness like an ordinary human. The girl rushed into the teacher's room, took out all the cell phones that were there, and then smashed them, without bothering to look which is Gwi-nam's cell phone. On the other hand, Chung-san and Soo-hyuk managed to sneak into the teacher's room and see Eunji destroying the students' cell phones. Sneaking around, Chung-san tries to reach a cell phone that has fallen nearby. But as soon as Chung-san takes the phone, Eunji notices it and screams, provoking the arrival of a horde of zombies into the teacher's room. Chung-san and Soo-hyuk were forced to split up to avoid the zombies' attacks until they were separated and had to save themselves. Chung-san rushed to escape past the zombies swarming in the school corridor, until finally, the young man managed to take another cell phone and enter the principal's room. It turns out that in the room, Gwi-nam is holding the principal and threatening him with a knife. The principal asks Gwi-nam to help him escape in his car, but because Gwi-nam refused, the principal was angry and threatened Gwi-nam, until finally, Gwi-nam responded to the principal's threat by holding the man and pointing a sharp knife at him, just as Chung-san went inside to take cover from the zombie attack. Seeing the principal being threatened by one of the delinquent students at school, Chung-san then asked Gwi-nam to stop his actions while filming Gwi-nam's actions and threatened to report Gwi-nam to the police. At first, Gwi-nam is panicked and scared, but when Chung-san calls himself a loser, Gwi-nam immediately becomes furious and kills the principal. When Gwi-nam was about to attack Chung-san, he immediately ran away, resulting in a chase between Chung-san and Gwi-nam in the midst of the zombie outbreak's invasion at the school. Chung-san then fled to the library, climbed the bookshelf to avoid the zombies, and jumped from one shelf to another to avoid Gwi-nam's attack, until finally, Gwi-nam managed to catch Chung-san and they got into a fight on the bookshelf. When Chung-san was pressed, he injured Gwi-nam's eye and pushed his body to fall into the crowd of zombies. Even though the zombies bite him, in his rage, Gwi-nam vows to kill Chung-san in retribution for what he has done to him. After that, Chung-san jumped over the bookshelves and finally managed to get out of the library, then hid inside the ventilator. On the other hand, Harry and her friends managed to reach the medical room and try to find help using the computer device. But apparently, the military and the city government have agreed to cut off telephone and internet networks throughout Hyosin City. The military was forced to do this because they found several individuals who had spread hoax news about zombie outbreak attacks for personal gain and triggered panic among residents in other cities. When the zombies began to arrive, Harry and her friends rushed to escape from the school's medical room. Elsewhere, Chung-san, who is hiding, tries to call for help using the cell phone he got, but the phone line is blocked. Chung-san immediately felt frustrated and desperate. However, the young man realized that he couldn't stay there forever, so Chung-san was desperate to get out of his hiding place, past the hordes of zombies that were blocking him in the corridor, until he managed to get into the music room and hide there for a while. Meanwhile, Jae-il and Ho-cheol, who are on their way to the military headquarters, have to face a horde of zombies on the streets, so they are forced to hide in a place that feels quite safe, which is none other than Cheongsan Chicken Restaurant. There they find Hisu, who has turned into a zombie in a bound state, as well as the baby who has survived. Hocheol suggests that Jae-il leave the baby because it's too dangerous to carry it past the zombies. But Jae-il can't bear to leave the baby alone there and decides to take the baby and protect it until they get to a safe place. Elsewhere, Soju and other firefighters try to save several government officials from the zombie attack that invaded the government building. After battling the zombies, Soju finally manages to get them to the roof of the building, where a rescue helicopter is ready to land and evacuate them all. Arriving at the quarantine center, Soju pleads with the military to evacuate the students at Hyosun High. However, the military forces still have to struggle to withstand the attacks of the zombie swarms while evacuating the residents who survived in several other areas, so they have not been able to evacuate the Hyosun High School area and its surroundings. Meanwhile, at school, Soo-hyuk looks like he's back together with his friends. Since An-jo and the others are worried that Chung-san hasn't returned yet, a bespectacled student named Jun-young suggests that they use a drone to locate Chung-san. After getting the drone, Jun-young then flew it throughout the school area and found Chung-san hiding in the music room. Knowing that Chung-san is still alive and in a safe place, Soo-hyuk reflexively hugs An-jo, which actually causes Namra to feel a little jealous because she secretly likes Soo-hyuk. As Jun-young flies the drone in another direction, Woo-jin notices that one of the zombies has stuck an arrow that he recognizes as an arrow belonging to his older sister, Haeri, who is an archery athlete. When they fly the drone in the other direction, they find the zombie plague has spread outside the school and chaos is everywhere. One of the students named Ji-min suddenly cried hysterically when she found her parents' vehicle had an accident on the road, and her parents had now become zombies. On the other hand, Gwi-nam, who was attacked by zombies, was still able to survive and have consciousness like a human, as experienced by Eun-jae. After that, the zombies no longer attack him, so Gwi-nam can walk leisurely in the crowd of zombies and have ambitions to take revenge on Chung-san. The scene then switches and shows the video footage of Mr. Lee, who was explaining about his experiment, where he named the virus as Jonas virus. Mr. Lee explained that the Jonas virus developed immediately after detecting antibodies in the human body, and it turned out that in some cases, the virus managed to evolve to a higher level, where it could study the human mind like what happened to Eun-jae and Gwi-nam, who have the physical resistance of zombies but are still able to maintain their consciousness like normal humans. When everyone pensively laments their respective fates, Ji-min suddenly wants to jump out the window, trying to kill herself because she feels frustrated after losing her parents and friends in the zombie outbreak that hit Hyosun City. An-jo and the others immediately stop Ji-min from committing suicide. After Ji-min calms down a bit, An-jo tries to encourage Ji-min and pleads with the girl not to give up on her life, and promises that they will overcome this obstacle together until the end. In the middle of their chat, Ji-min accidentally presses the microphone button, which brings up an idea in Namra's mind. Namra then asks her friends to get together and make a plan so they can all get out of there. After realizing that the zombies are attracted by the noise, Namra intends to use the loudspeaker to distract the zombies, while they will sneak outside and head to the school's roof so that their whereabouts are known by the rescue helicopter that will evacuate them all from the school. Before they play a song from the CD to distract the zombies, Soo-hyuk and An-jo talk to Chung-san over the loudspeaker and ask him to stay where he is. Hearing An-jo's voice over the loudspeaker, Chung-san feels a little relieved and decides to stay in the music room. However, unbeknownst to Chung-san, it turns out that Naeun is hiding in the warehouse in the music room filled with canned snacks and drinks. Namra's plan goes smoothly, with the zombies starting to head toward the source of the noise deliberately set away from the road leading to the school's roof. However, there was one zombie still in front of the broadcast room, which seemed unaffected by the loud music. Having no other choice but to get past the zombie, An-jo and the others walk slowly without making a sound. But then, Jun-young accidentally drops his drink bottle, so the zombies turn around and are about to attack them. Soo-hyuk asks his friends to run away immediately while he fights the zombie. When An-jo and the others make their way up the stairs and rush to the music room, Gwi-nam arrives at the broadcast room to look for Chung-san's whereabouts but finds the room empty. Soo-hyuk, who was pressed by the zombie attack, was suddenly saved by Gwi-nam, who then asked Soo-hyuk where Chung-san was. Knowing that Gwi-nam intends to kill Chung-san, Soo-hyuk is reluctant to tell Chung-san's whereabouts, so Gwi-nam is annoyed and then attacks Soo-hyuk. Soo-hyuk and Gwi-nam got into a fierce fight until finally Namra came and helped Soo-hyuk by catching Gwi-nam from behind. But Gwi-nam then resisted by biting Namra's hand. Seeing Namra hurt, Soo-hyuk immediately became angry. The young man immediately got up and pushed Gwi-nam's body so that he fell from a height. Meanwhile, An-jo and the others managed to reunite with Chung-san, who is in the music room, followed by Soo-hyuk and Namra. However, not long after, a flock of zombies again invaded the music room, so they were trapped again and forced to hide to avoid the zombies' attacks. Meanwhile, at the quarantine center, Soju intends to escape from there to save her daughter, who is still trapped at Hyosun High. After incapacitating several military soldiers, Soju then disguises himself as one of them, keeps an eye on the situation in the quarantine center, and looks for access in and out of the place so she can escape from there. Back in the music room, the students are startled by the bite scar on Namra's hand. Chung-san then picks up the music book stand and prepares to attack Namra. However, Soo-hyuk immediately protects Namra and says that the girl was bitten by Gwi-nam. Chung-san says that Gwi-nam has become a zombie because he saw with his own eyes when the zombies bit Gwi-nam in the library. Not wanting her friends to fight, Namra decides to leave there, but Soo-hyuk immediately grabs Namra's hand, preventing her from leaving. Soo-hyuk then takes Namra to the window, still holding her hand, and says that he himself will throw Namra out the window if the girl turns into a zombie. Likewise, Namra intends to commit suicide if she turns into a zombie. On the other hand, Hae and her friends are attacked by zombies, where Jun-sung is bitten and starts showing early symptoms of zombie infection, as well as Namra, who looks so eager to bite Soo-hyuk's neck. When Namra brought his mouth to Soo-hyuk's neck, Chung-san prepared to attack Namra, but Soo-hyuk reflexively protected Namra. Soo-hyuk and Chung-san were again at loggerheads and fighting. But then, An-jo steps up and protects Namra. The girl asks her friends to observe Namra more closely because Namra is neither bleeding nor injured, which means that the girl is fine. An-jo concludes that Gwi-nam might have been bitten by a zombie, but not infected, as seen in some zombie films where there are characters who are immune to the zombie virus. So An-jo assumes that Namra wasn't infected by Gwi-nam's bite. However, not everyone agrees with An-jo, who wants to protect Namra, one of which is Ji-min, who asks Namra to leave immediately. Feeling that her presence will trigger divisions among her friends, Namra decides to leave. But An-jo grabs her hand, preventing her from leaving, because An-jo doesn't want to lose her friends again. An-jo tries to convince them that Namra's hand feels warm, unlike Hae-onju and Isaac, who were infected with the zombie virus earlier. But Ji-min still refuses Namra's presence in their group, until finally Soo-hyuk decides to tie the ropes around his hand and Namra's hand in order to convince his friends not to kick Namra out, and he risks being the person Namra would bite if the girl turned into a zombie, which shows that Soo-hyuk really cares about Namra and wants to protect her. After Namra's case is over, Da-soo and the others talk about food because they're already starving and haven't eaten anything after the zombie epidemic spreads in the school. Nae-hyun, who had been eavesdropping on her friend's conversation from behind the barn door, intends to go out and tell her about the food supplies that are there. However, the girl then gave up after hearing her friends talk about her for deliberately causing Gyeongsu to be infected with a zombie virus. Chung-san then remembered that parents were asked to send food supplies before sports competitions, and it was possible that these supplies were stored in the warehouse in the music room. Da-soo and the others then try to break down the barn door, but Nae-hyun turns out to have barricaded the door so they can't open it. Jae-min finds a handycam and starts recording herself uttering lines to encourage herself to keep fighting and survive. After Jae-min The other students also do the same, where they convey a message to their respective families who may have survived the zombie outbreak and say to keep fighting and survive. When it was Anju's turn, the girl delivered a message to her father who had promised to come save her but never came. At the same time, Soju was trying to escape from the quarantine center. However, the soldiers noticed his actions, so they chased Soju and cornered the man to the edge of the lake. In order to save her daughter, Soju desperately throws himself into the lake, avoiding the soldiers' fire, even though the man must be injured. Anjo's expression of affection for his father makes Soju willing to be injured and fight to avoid the attacks of the soldiers in order to save her beloved daughter. The scenes moved by showing Soju, who managed to survive the pursuit of the soldiers while trying to escape from the quarantine center located in the corner of Hae-onju City. Soju, who was shot in the stomach, then heads to the police station. After treating his wound, Soju took some equipment and weapons, before finally fighting the zombies that were blocking him and leaving to pick up his daughter, who was trapped in Hyosun High School. Meanwhile, at Hyosun High School, Namra and Soo-hyuk are seen sitting alone, a bit away from their friends. Namra tells Soo-hyuk that she felt like she was dreaming when the infection spread through her body. She could smell such a delicious scent from Soo-hyuk's body that could arouse her hunger, so she wanted to bite him. Namra then reveals that after that, she heard Soo-hyuk calling her name, even though Soo-hyuk had never mentioned her name but only called her class president. It was Soo-hyuk's voice calling her name that made Namra come back to her senses. After that, Namra kissed Soo-hyuk lightly on the lips as an expression of gratitude for all that Soo-hyuk had done for her, as well as her love for him, which Soo-hyuk welcomed because he also harbored the same feelings. On the other hand, Yoonji, who is immune to the bites of zombies, walks down the school corridor with a rumbling stomach. Yoonji then enters a room, but she immediately realized that there was someone hiding in the room who was none other than a teacher, namely Mr. Jung. Very hungry, Yoonji devoured the fish in the aquarium alive. Seeing this, Mr. Jung immediately felt afraid of Eunji and immediately hit the girl's head. But because Eunji's body has turned into a half-zombie, she doesn't feel any pain and instead attacks Mr. Jung. Although Yoonji and Mr. Jung are on the other side of the school, Namra can clearly hear Yoonji throwing up after biting Mr. Jung. Not only that, Namra can also clearly hear the sound of her friend's heartbeats, which is the effect of her body changes after being infected with the zombie virus from Gwi-nam. Realizing that they can't stay here forever because the zombies will continue to swarm in front of the room they're hiding in, Namra suggests that they get out of there immediately and head for the school roof. Apparently, Gwi-nam managed to survive despite having been pushed down from a height by Soo-hyuk. When Gwi-nam is drinking from the water tap on the school grounds, he notices that someone is calling his name, which is none other than Myung-won, the head of the delinquent students, who managed to survive by hiding under a truck. Realizing that now he has become stronger and immune to zombie attacks, Gwi-nam then pulls Myung-won out from under the truck, breaks his arm, then leaves Myung-won an easy target for the zombies. Returning to Namra and her friends who are thinking of a way to get to the school's rooftop and get past the zombies, Anjo then suggests her plan to go to the rooftop by building a barricade, distracting the zombies using a loudspeaker, and sneaking out. From there, when there are no more zombies roaming the corridors, then lock them up in the music room. Without further ado, Anjo and her friends immediately take the first step of their plan, which is to build a barricade. Anjo then asks Soo-hyuk to untie Namra to make it easier for them to escape while avoiding any suspicion, because Anjo doesn't want people to misunderstand and corner Namra. Meanwhile, Harry and her friends have made a stretcher to carry the injured Jun-sung out of the gym. But suddenly the stretcher broke because it couldn't support Jun-sung's weight. Because the zombies started arriving, Harry and the others rushed back into the gym. Elsewhere, Jae-il and Ho-cheol plan to leave Chien-sang Chicken Restaurant while taking Hisu's baby on a motorbike parked there. When Jae-il tries to start the engine, he sees a little girl running fast to avoid being chased by zombies. Jae-il immediately saves the little girl and rushes back into the restaurant. Jae-il then hands the baby to Ho-cheol, Then he tries to calm the little girl named Si-bin, who is shaking with fear because she is being chased by a horde of bloodthirsty zombies, and one of the zombies is her own mother. Not long after, Jae-il and Ho-cheol then made some basic self-protection, so they wouldn't be easily bitten by zombies. Jae-il also made the protection for Si-bin to protect the little girl from zombie bites. Jae-il then calms Si-bin, who keeps watching her mother who has turned into a zombie from the window, by saying that they will get out of there and head to a safe place, and after that, Jae-il will come back to pick up Si-bin's mother. They then rush to escape from there on motorbikes, while avoiding the zombies' attacks. After driving for a long time to avoid zombie attacks, Jae-il can finally ride his motorbike without rushing, until they finally arrive at a residential area where there is a man who is taking cover from zombie attacks by climbing the roof of a house. That man is the person who did live streaming of the zombie outbreak attack in Hyosun City a few days ago. Because of his high humanity, Jae-il decides to help the man whose leg is injured, ignoring Ho-cheol's warning that zombies can reappear at any time. When Jae-il tries to help the man, Ho-cheol sees the zombies coming from a distance. Frightened and panicked, Ho-cheol immediately steps on the gas and flees from there, leaving Jae-il and the man behind. Meanwhile, at Hyosun High School, the students finally finish building the barricades in the music room, where Chung-san and Soo-hyuk are tasked with opening the front door so the zombies can enter the music room. Soo-hyuk then asked Chung-san why Gwi-nam was so annoyed with him that he wanted to kill him. Chung-san says that he caught Gwi-nam holding the principal then killed him, and Chung-san threatened to report Gwi-nam's actions to the police. Not only that, Chung-san was the one who injured Gwi-nam's eye in an attempt to save himself. After hearing this, Soo-hyuk then asked Chung-san to leave, while he himself would open the door for the zombies. After the door was opened and the music turned on, the zombies rushed in, while Chung-san and the others tried their best to hold back the barricades. Anjo, who is in charge of watching the situation outside through the window, then asks Dasu to shout louder to lure the zombies into their trap, while the other students make a fuss by playing musical instruments. Meanwhile, at the military camp, a commander named Sinmu is monitoring the development of one of the soldiers who has contracted the zombie virus and is quarantined in a room. Sinmu intends to do research on the body of the soldier to find out more about the zombie virus that is spreading very fast and find a solution to stop the zombie epidemic from spreading. One of Sin's men suddenly came to him and said that there was a member of the government council at the quarantine center who asked to meet with the commander. The assemblywoman, Yunhee, then asked Sinmu to evacuate several schools in Hyosun, especially Hyosun High. Although Sinmu initially refused to send a rescue team to the school because they were currently understaffed, Sinmu then sent a rescue helicopter to search the schools in Hyosun City and evacuate people who might still have survived and were waiting for help to arrive. Meanwhile, at Hyosun High School, Chung-san and the others start to struggle with holding the barricades because the zombies keep coming, until finally Woo-jin, who is in charge of supervising the corridor leading to the school roof, tells his friends that the situation in the corridor is safe and not a single zombie there. Chung-san and his friends managed to get out of the music room, and they immediately ran upstairs to the school roof. Realizing that Chung-san and the others had left the music room, the zombies who managed to destroy the barricade immediately ran after them. At the same time, a rescue helicopter is heading to several schools, including Hyosun High School, to evacuate people who have survived the zombie outbreak. On the school roof, Cheol-soo sees a rescue helicopter heading towards him, and at the same time, he hears loud banging as well as screams for help at the door leading to the roof, which is Anjo and friends trying to break the door. However, Cheol-soo refuses to open it, considering that he is often targeted for bullying by his classmates at school, and Cheol-soo now chooses not to care. On the other hand, Namra, who has a keen hearing, tells her friends that the zombies will start arriving soon. Chung-san and Soo-hyuk try to block the zombies from going up the stairs, while the others throw tarps at the zombies to slow them down. However, Among the swarms of zombies, Gwi-nam charged forward while grinning at Chung-san, preparing to launch his attack. With the help of Soo-hyuk, Chung-san tries to beat Gwi-nam, but because Gwi-nam has the physical endurance of a zombie, they are both overwhelmed. Seeing her two friends in a desperate situation, Namra quickly helped them, and because Namra also has a tough physique like Gwi-nam, the girl was able to easily catch and drop Gwi-nam downstairs. On the other hand, Yeonji, who is walking on the school grounds, looks up and sees a rescue helicopter hovering on the school roof. Yeonji remembers the past when she was often bullied at school, then decided to return to the school building, starting a fire in the teacher's room, intending to set the school on fire. However, Yeonji's actions trigger a fire alarm, disarming the security system on the door leading to the roof. By the time An-jo and the others managed to open the door, the rescue helicopter hastily took off and left them all behind. There's a loud bang at the door, which is none other than Gwi-nam. But he then chose to leave and think of another way to get to the school's roof. After being satisfied with venting her frustration at a school that never sheltered or gave her a sense of security when studying, Yeonji then left school, riding a bicycle leisurely because the zombies would ignore her presence. Meanwhile, Jae-il and the male live streamer who took cover on the roof of the house start to feel hot under the scorching sun. Jae-il intends to distract the zombies by throwing something in a certain direction, but that doesn't seem to be enough to repel the zombies that keep coming their way. Just when Jae-il is almost desperate because the zombies keep coming, suddenly they see a bus approaching them, which is actually being driven by Ho-cheol. Ho-cheol then asks Jae-il and the live streamer guy to climb onto the roof of the bus, while Ho pounces on the zombies that get in the way. Finally, they manage to escape from there. At Hyosun High School, Soo-hyuk and Chung-san are discussing Gwi-nam, who looks much tougher than normal humans, which shows that Gwi-nam has physical endurance like a zombie and is immune to zombie attacks. Chung-san and his friends then collect the items to make an emergency signal, hoping that another rescue helicopter will come to evacuate them all from there. As it gets dark, Chung-san and the others try to make a bonfire, but because they don't have matches or anything like that, they seem to have a hard time until Namra finally hands him a lighter.
나 사실 담배 펴.
Chung-san and the others seemed annoyed that Namra didn't give the lighter right away, even though they had been working hard to make a bonfire. That night, while on his way to the military camp, Ho-cheol accidentally bumps into Eunji, who passes in front of him, causing the girl to fall over. Jae-il rushes to check on Eunji's injury. When Jae-il was about to take Eunji to go with him, suddenly they were both fired upon from a distance and then ambushed by military forces. Jae-il immediately shows his badge and tells them he's a cop. After that, Jae-il and the others are taken to the quarantine center to be evacuated. On the school roof, Chung-san and his friends sit around the bonfire to warm up. They then ask Dasu to sing a song, which they end up singing along, adding to the heartwarming feel of the cold night. On the other hand, Nae-yeon decides to come out of hiding and finds a handycam previously used by her friends to record themselves each bidding farewell. Nae-yeon watches the videotape of Chung-san saying that Jae-soo died because of his mistake, where Chung-san lets Jae-soo jump from a height. Knowing this, Nae-yeon also feels very sorry for Chung-san and the rest of her friends because she caused Jae-soo to die. Although unable to make amends, Nae-yeon is determined to help her friends by bringing them food, especially because she remembered Mrs. Park's last message, which said that she should go back to her friends and apologize to them before Mrs. Park died in an attack by zombies trying to save her. Nae-yeon immediately put some snacks and canned drinks into her bag and ventured out of her hiding place. But Nae-yeon instead met with Gwi-nam, who was hungry and thirsty for blood, who immediately bit Nae-yeon and killed her. After preying on Nae-yeon, Gwi-nam, who was back in good shape, then crept up to the top of the school building, where Chung-san and the others were there. Meanwhile, Chung-san confesses his feelings for An-jo in front of all his friends, and the boy says that he has liked Anjo since they were little. But Anjo thinks Chung-san is lying and leaves right away. Soo-hyuk then asks Chung-san to go after Anjo and explain everything to her. When he is alone with Anjo, Chung-san apologizes to Anjo and says that Anjo doesn't need to like him as Chung-san likes Anjo. However, Anjo, who was annoyed and had only thought of Chung-san as his best friend, then asked Chung-san to get out of her sight immediately. When Chung-san was gone, Gwi-nam came and attacked Anjo. Knowing this, Chung-san then shouted for his friends and rushed to save Anjo. Gwi-nam then pushes Anjo to the ground, then runs towards Chung-san, where they finally face each other again, and Gwi-nam tries to pry out Chung-san's eyes, avenging him. Soo-hyuk and the others rush to help Chung-san, but they are overwhelmed because Gwi-nam is too tough, until finally Namra, who also has the toughness of a zombie, helps her friends. When Gwi-nam managed to corner Soo-hyuk and was about to knock him off the roof, Namra swiftly grabbed Gwi-nam, then threw him down. Despite falling from a height several times, Gwi-nam only suffered a broken bone and was able to move again. Meanwhile, at the military camp in the quarantine center, a soldier informs Commander Sin-mu about Jae-il, who has important information about the beginning of the zombie outbreak that is spreading very quickly in Hyosun City. Sin-mu rushed to Jae-il, who was being interrogated by the military. Jae-il revealed that the zombie outbreak started from an experiment conducted by Mr. Lee to his wife and children. Mr. Lee said that all the data regarding the experiment was stored on his laptop in the Hyosun High School laboratory room. The scene then switches and shows Chil-soo finally reuniting with Eun-ji at the quarantine center. Eun-ji then says that she burned down the school and is now feeling so hungry that she wants to eat Chil-soo alive. After successfully knocking Gwi-nam down, Chung-san and the others sit back around the fire and tell stories. This time it's Namra's turn to tell the story. Namra reveals that she is very happy to be able to do this with her friends, where they sit together and tell stories to each other. Namra hopes that someday they can get together again and do this again because Namra has always been a loner and rarely has friends to talk to. Namra is suddenly silent for a moment, and her expression changes as she says that she hears something approaching them. Turns out what Namra heard was a helicopter sent to their school to find Mr. Lee's laptop. Chung-san and his friends also seem happy that they will finally be saved from there. However, the soldiers asked Chung-san and the others to lie down because they had to be checked first to make sure no one was infected with the zombie virus. After that, Chung-san and his friends were asked to wait a moment because the main mission of the soldiers was to find the laptop. After paralyzing the zombies, the military special forces finally managed to find the laptop and copied all of the experimental data to give to the military camp command center. Elsewhere, Commander Sean gets a report from his subordinates that there has been an attack near the quarantine post, where one of the survivors, who is not showing any symptoms of a zombie virus infection, suddenly bites his own friend. The survivor is Eun-ji, who tries to bite Chil-soo. After learning that in some cases, people who have been infected with the zombie virus don't show any symptoms and look normal, Seon-mu also orders the special forces not to evacuate Chung-san and the others and rushes away from there. Chung-san and his friends were confused as to why they didn't even get saved and just left. Back at the quarantine center, Assemblywoman Eun-hee is being interrogated by the military about Soju escaping from the quarantine center. Eun-hee says that it is her responsibility because when the zombie outbreak started, Soju chose to save Eun-hee and other government officials rather than save her daughter who was trapped in Hyosun High. When it was confirmed that Eun-hee and other Hyosun City government officials were in a safe place, Soju rushed to find and save her daughter because that was the true love of a father for his daughter. And because of that, Eun-hee is willing to take responsibility for Soju's actions. After Eun-ji is secured somewhere and further researched, scientists conclude that Eun-ji is not completely a zombie, but she is also not an ordinary human, so it has the potential to spread the zombie virus to others. Therefore, Commander Seon immediately took decisive steps by confining people from Hyosun in certain wards because they were suspected of having conditions like junkies that could endanger others. That night, heavy rain began to pour down on Hyosun City, accompanied by lightning. Chung-san and his friends seem happy because they can finally drink after having to endure thirst for several days since the zombie outbreak attack. However, Chung-san then realizes that the rain and lightning affect Namra as well as the zombies because their hearing is very sensitive, so the sound of thunder booming is very painful to their ears, and the pouring rain can disguise the smell of the human body. Chung-san has an idea that they should immediately get off the school roof and head to the tennis court that leads to the mountains. Chung-san plans to take his friends on a run through the mountains and head to the next town to seek refuge, since the Hyosun city government and the military have purposely ignored them. On the other hand, Hae and her friends also realize that the zombies are very sensitive to noise, including the sound of thunder, and plan to flee toward the mountains, just as Chung-san had planned. Full of vigilance, Chung-san's group and Hae-ri's group rushed to the tennis courts while it was raining heavily in the city to avoid being attacked by the zombies. However, when Chung-san and the others are about to leave Hyosun High School, Chung-san sees his mother who has turned into a zombie. Dasu, who then beats Chung-san's mother because he does not know that the zombie in front of them is Chung-san's mother. Chung-san was instantly angry and immediately rushed to help his mother by beating Dasu. Soo-hyuk rushes to break up Chung-san and Dasu's fight because if they keep making a fuss, the zombies will come back. Anjo and the others also try to convince Chung-san that his mother has become a zombie. He can't help but accept that fact. Chung-san also remembers the good memories he spent with his mother and regrets that his mother became a zombie. On the other hand, Hae and her friends are already outside the school building and are about to head to the tennis court. While walking through the area behind the school, one of the students named Hyo-ryun fell because the road was muddy and slippery. The girl then asked Jae-min to help her. Seeing a zombie approaching, Jae-min decides to leave Hyo-ryun and runs after her friends. Not long after, Woo-jin arrives and helps Hyo-ryun just before the zombie bites her. When Woo-jin and Hyo-ryun struggled against the zombie, suddenly an arrow shot straight into the zombie's head, paralyzing it. Hae and her friends then follow Woo-jin, who is very happy that his sister is still alive and has saved her. On the other hand, Jae-min turns out to be lost and separated from his friends. The girl instead runs towards the school grounds, where there are lots of zombies, and Jae-min ends up being eaten by the zombies. Because the zombies started to arrive, Chung-san and the others decided to go to the school gym. Namra, who can smell the scent from a distance, then tells her friends to run and save themselves because there are a lot of zombies in the school gym. Everyone was running until Min-jae was separated from the others and had to face the zombies alone. In order to save his friends and because he doesn't want to continue to be a burden, Jun-sung sacrifices himself to be eaten by zombies, while his friends hide in the sports equipment warehouse. Chung-san and the others then realize that Jae-min was not with them. Dae-soo then apologizes to Chung-san for beating up Chung-san's mother, even though she has become a zombie. Anjo also tries to calm Chung-san, who is lamenting the fate of his mother, who is now a bloodthirsty zombie. Meanwhile, at the military camp, Seonmu is watching the video footage of Mr. Lee, stating that the Jonas virus continued to develop on its own, making it impossible to find a cure. The only solution to stop the spread of the zombie virus is to burn the host body completely, which means all the townspeople who are infected with the zombie virus must be exterminated. Seonmu then orders his troops to stop the rescue operation and increase the guard on the barricades they have built to avoid the zombie attacks. The next day, when everyone seemed to be fast asleep, Chung-san apparently didn't sleep because he was still thinking about his mother. Anjo then wakes up and realizes that Chung-san was up all night. Feeling very lost after the death of his mother, Chung-san says that he has no one else in this world, so he doesn't know what his fate will be in the future. Anjo responds quite casually, with the girl trying to encourage Chung-san to not give up and keep fighting until they all reach the safest shelter and discuss the matter further. Elsewhere, Soju is seen climbing a hilly area while wrapping a rope around each tree trunk He passes as a guide so that he doesn't get lost when going down the hill and back to the residential area. Since everyone was awake now, Chung-san and the others then discussed how to get out of there while avoiding the zombies that were blocking the room outside. Soo-hyuk suggests that they use the trolley as a barricade so they can get past the zombies roaming outside. Soo-hyuk's idea is well received by his friends. However, Jun-young and Mi-jin differ on how to build a barricade that is strong enough to withstand the zombies' attacks. To resolve the dispute, Namra holds a vote and asks her friends to vote for Jun-young's or Mi-jin's ideas. After a poll, it was finally decided that they would build a barricade according to Jun-young's directions. Because Mi-jin seems annoyed that she lost the vote, Jun-young then says that he will take responsibility if his method doesn't work. While preparing things to carry out their plan, Chung-san found a bar of chocolate. Because they haven't eaten anything since the zombie outbreak, they eat the chocolate by biting it alternately. But when it was Dae-su's turn, the young man actually devoured the chocolate, even though Jun-young had not yet gotten his share. As a result, everyone scolds Dae-su for not thinking about Jun-young. Chung-san and his friends then carried out their plan, but because of the large number of zombies, they had difficulty moving the barricades to get past the zombies and rush to the exit. Realizing that his plan is not going well, Jun-young then takes the initiative to climb the barricade and fight the zombies by sacrificing himself, so that his friends can reach the exit safely. On the other hand, Soju made it through the hilly area and is now heading to an empty building not far from Hyosun High. After battling several zombies in the building, Soju finally arrives at Hyosun High School and meets Anjo when the man manages to open the school gym's exit, where Anjo and her friends are trying to save themselves from the zombie attacks. Anjo really doesn't expect to meet his father at such a tense time. The father and daughter hugged each other to let go of their longing, and after that they rushed away from there, following Soju's directions. On the other hand, Gwi-nam, who is fully recovered, tracks down Chung-san's whereabouts again for revenge. Gwi-nam meets Min-jae, who is picking up a supply of arrows, and asks him about Chung-san because Gwi-nam smells Chung-san's scent on Min-jae's body. But Min-jae says that he doesn't know Chung-san. Gwi-nam is angry and then attacks Min-jae. Before fully turning into a zombie, Min-jae tries to shoot Gwi-nam in the head, but unfortunately, he misses. When they want to escape to the hills and head to the city border, Soju and the students are again hunted by a swarm of bloodthirsty zombies, so they are trapped on the tennis court. Soju tries to distract the zombies by throwing flares, but it can't hold the zombies any longer, so Soju asks Anjo and her friends to save themselves immediately, while Soju sacrifices himself to be eaten by the zombies in order to save the lives of his daughter and others. Seeing the sacrifices made by his father, Anjo was devastated, but she had to rush off with her friends to a safer place. Arriving at the empty building, Anjo and her friends still have to fight against the zombie attacks that are there until they finally manage to hide on the side of the window of the building being renovated. Anjo still looks so sad and frustrated at his father's sacrifice. Chung-san then hugged the girl tightly, trying to calm her down. Just like Anjo when the girl cheered Chung-san after seeing the condition of Chung-san's mother who had turned into a zombie. Chung-san is now also encouraging Anjo with the same sentence, where they will now strengthen and encourage each other and think about the next step if the situation is completely safe from the zombie outbreak attack. Meanwhile, at the military camp, Yeonji manages to free herself and is now able to move freely in the room where she is confined. In an experiment, Seon-moo and his men finally find out that Yeonji and other zombies are very sensitive to noise, which raises an idea in Seon-moo's mind to stop the zombie outbreak from spreading in Hyosun City. They will use noise to lure the zombies somewhere, and after that, the zombies will be annihilated with a missile bomb with a large explosive power enough to destroy them all. While hiding with her friends, Namra's zombie instincts reappear, and the girl feels hungry and thirsty for blood, so she almost bites the neck of Soo-hyuk, who is next to her. But then, Namra, who is still controlling her consciousness as a human, then bites her own hand so she doesn't hurt Soo-hyuk or the rest of her friends. Soo-hyuk, who knows Namra's suffering, then hugs the girl and asks Namra to just bite her instead of Namra being tormented by hunger. After calming down a bit, Namra then tells her friends that she heard the sound of helicopters as well as the conversation of the soldiers who were planning to blow up several places in Hyosun City to destroy the zombies. An-jo and the others are shocked to hear this. They also plan to immediately leave and look for a safer hiding place because their current location was quite close to Hyosun High School, which would be the point of explosion. Not yet had time to leave, Gwi-nam suddenly appeared and attacked Chung-san, then bit the young man so that Chung-san turned into a zombie. After Gwi-nam was successfully dropped from a height for the umpteenth time, Chung-san asked his friends to get out of there immediately. Because he will turn into a zombie, Chung-san tries to attract the attention of the zombies so that his friends can save themselves from there. Meanwhile, the military forces are preparing a detonation plan by hurting the zombies using loudspeakers mounted on drones that are deployed to certain points. The swarms of zombies began to follow the sound of the drone. Seung-nu is forced to take this solution in order to stop the zombie outbreak that will reach Seoul if it's not dealt with immediately. However, this is considered inhumane because in fact there are still many residents of Hyosun City who managed to survive the zombie attacks and are now hiding somewhere. Before leaving, Chung-san gives An-jo his name tag, indicating that he really likes the girl, and hugs An-jo very tightly. Chung-san then asks Soo-hyuk to protect An-jo and his friends. Chung-san then entered the building and lured the zombies to attack him. The young man managed to outwit the zombies and plunge them from a height before finally Chung-san faced Gwi-nam again. The fight was unbalanced because Chung-san hadn't completely turned into a zombie, so he was badly beaten and couldn't fight back when Gwi-nam poked out his left eye. After the zombies had gathered at a predetermined point, Seung-nu immediately ordered his troops to blow up the place and annihilate the zombies. At the same time, knowing that Hyosun High School and its surroundings will be blown up, Chung-san uses Gwi-nam's body as protection from the huge explosion that occurred there. After ordering a massive indiscriminate extermination of zombies, Seung-mu then orders one of his men to take command while he returns to his room. In his room, Seung-mu makes a video recording of himself saying that he is the one responsible for the massive extermination he was forced to carry out to stop the zombie plague from spreading to other cities. Even though he knows that there are still many survivors, Seung-mu still carries out his plan. This is in contrast to Mr. Lee, who didn't even have the heart to kill his own son and wife, because Mr. Lee still has compassion even though the family he loves has turned into zombies and forgotten about him. Seung-mu then apologizes profusely to his family and to all Hyosun City residents for his actions that have cost the lives of many people. After that, Seung-mu decided to kill himself by shooting his head. Seeing the dust left from the explosion flying in the air, the survivors who are in quarantine realize the cruel actions taken by Seung-mu to stop the zombie outbreak by costing the lives of thousands of people who don't turn into zombies out there. Luckily, An-jo and his friends manage to escape in time and avoid the explosion that engulfs their school, wiping out their zombie friends. During the escape, Dasu sustains an injury to his leg, so they decide to postpone the trip to the border and rest until morning. The next morning, An-jo plans to return to the empty building to find out where Chung-san is. Accompanied by Soo-hyuk and Namra, An-jo rushes over there, while the rest of his friends wait and rest. When he got there, Namra said that she didn't smell the scent of Chung-san's body or the other zombies, indicating that Chung-san's body might have been burned to the ground. An-jo can't hold back the tears and pain she feels. Namra then hugs An-jo, trying to calm her down and encourage the girl to continue living for the sake of those who have sacrificed their lives to protect them all. After the explosion, the military forces began to patrol the entire city to ensure that the zombies were completely annihilated. They then put leaflets in various places to indicate that the place is safe from zombies or is still very dangerous and must be avoided as much as possible because there are still some zombies who managed to survive the devastating explosion. Returning to An-jo and their friends who continued their journey toward the border, Woo-jin realized that they had been lost all along. Harry then finds a ribbon on some tree branches and Anjo immediately notices that the ribbon was intentionally tied by her father as a guide. Anjo also finds her father's flashlight that fell there. Elsewhere, one of the National Intelligence Service agents who investigated the zombie outbreak in Hyosun City then went to evacuate Mr. Lee's son and wife. Surprisingly, they did not immediately kill the two zombies and instead moved them to a place. After following directions from her father, Anjo and her friends managed to arrive at a residential area near the border. The area is still covered in dust and shrouded in thick smoke, but Anjo and the others find no zombie bodies. Namra then tells her friends that a swarm of zombies is approaching them. They rush to escape. Thinking that he was just a burden because he was injured, Da-soo then asked his friends to leave him. But Soo-hyuk and the others insist that they will never leave anyone and will protect each other. Soo-hyuk and the others then take various objects around them that can be used as weapons and work together to face the zombies. In the attack, Woo-jin sacrificed himself to save his sister's life. Harry is devastated that her younger brother is now a zombie. Since she was unable to kill her own brother, Namra finally killed Woo-jin with one fatal blow. While continuing their journey to the border, Namra is again seized with the desire to eat human flesh. Not wanting to hurt her friends, Namra decides to sneak away from her friends. However, Soo-hyuk and Anjo notice Namra's departure, so they both decide to find Namra first. The two then find Namra, who is eating the flesh of the zombies. With her zombie instincts still taking over her body, Namra immediately attacks Anjo, trying to bite her. Soo-hyuk can't bear to hit Namra until Namra finally wakes up after Anjo says that they are friends. Namra, realizing that she was starting to lose control and almost hurt Anjo, immediately rushes away from there as far as possible because now she's starting to have a hard time controlling the zombie instincts that are trying to completely control her body. Unable to find Namra's whereabouts, Soo-hyuk and the others continued their journey. When they arrived at the border, the military troops who were guarding there immediately pointed weapons at them. After that, Anjo and his friends are taken to the military camp to be quarantined for a while being interrogated about what happened because they are from Hyosun High School, where the zombie outbreak began. 3.5 months later, the residents of Hyosun City who were in the quarantine center were asked to stay there because the Disease Prevention and Control Task Force had not yet been able to recognize the criteria for the Jonas virus, which causes people to turn into zombies. Especially after knowing that people who appear normal can also be infected with the virus, as happened to Hae-onju. However, donations and aid continued to flow from all over the country for the residents of Hyosun City who had to stay in the quarantine center because the central government had not been able to end the quarantine period for the residents of Hyosun City due to the zombie outbreak. In the evening, Anjo is seen climbing the wall of the quarantine center, then walking towards a nearby hill, where Anjo apparently has been writing her feelings on a ribbon she tied to a tree branch and also putting some snacks nearby. In the message, Anjo writes about her longing for her friend, Isaac, and her wish for Namra to be back with them, as well as her feelings for Chong-san. As she is about to return to the quarantine center, Anjo sees a bonfire in the distance coming from her school building. The next day, Anjo then tells Soo-hyuk about it. Anjo assumes that the person who made the bonfire was Namra because the girl once said that she wanted to sit around the bonfire again with her friends. Therefore, Anjo asks Soo-hyuk to accompany her to the school building and find out who made the bonfire. Because it is quite dangerous, Anjo also asks Soo-hyuk to keep it a secret from their other friends. That evening, when Anjo arrives there, it turns out that not only Soo-hyuk has come, but also her other friends. After visiting the tree to place snacks and messages, they see a bonfire in the distance, just as Anjo said. Anjo and her friends then head to Hyosun High School, which has become an abandoned building after the explosion. When they arrived at the roof, they found the bonfire still burning but found no one there. Not long after, Namra suddenly appears and the girl is in better shape than the last time Anjo saw her. Namra says that it was she who made the bonfire. Anjo then asks Namra to come back with them. But Namra refuses, saying that they will still be friends even if they don't live together. Namra also says that she still has work to do with people like her. There are many people out there who are like Namra, Junkie, and Gwi-nam, people who are infected with the zombie virus, but still look normal. After that, Namra said goodbye to her friends and then jumped off the school roof. The series concludes by presenting An-jo and her friends, their expressions filled with astonishment as they witness an unexpected occurrence right in front of them. What could it be that has left them so surprised? Perhaps it was Chang-san miraculously surviving the explosion and transforming into Namra. Or is it something entirely different? The first season of this series leaves numerous unanswered questions, strongly hinting at the possibility of a continuation in the next season. This show conveys several moral messages, notably delving into the issue of bullying as the root cause of the zombie virus outbreak in Hyosun City. Mr. Lee, unable to bear his son's constant victimization, embarked on a quest to empower his child, inadvertently triggering a catastrophic chain of events that swept across the entire city. In this series, we witness both the negative and positive aspects of human nature when people are thrust into life-or-death situations where survival often means resorting to violence. Amidst the brutality and mercilessness depicted, there are instances of hardship, camaraderie, and selflessness stemming from genuine love and affection.